Okay, so this game is called Horror Game Demo. Apparently they deleted the game or took the game off the page. So I don't know if this game's going to be worth anything. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But considering it was on there, I'm going to assume that maybe there's something playable here. So we're going to attempt to try it. And if there isn't anything playable here, you'll never see this video. So let's see. Make sure everything's good. Alright, let's jump right into this. I'm assuming they must have lost confidence in the game, or just not very many people ended up playing it. So, I don't know. We'll find out. So far, so good. Looks great. I mean, graphically looks good. Okay, you just don't do that. You just don't start opening the door. Okay, picked up backpack. Everything's just happening. Okay. Why did I pick up a candle? I played a game that uses these same mechanics, actually. What was it that I just got done playing? I think it was something I was playing yesterday. Buddha. What about Buddha? Okay. So, we have a lighter, a candle, and I played something that had... I mean, everybody kind of uses the same mechanics, so I can't say too much, you know. Everybody uses Unity. Door's locked. This door is not locked. Okay, so we're gonna... Nobody's here. I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that. Any fucking day. There you go. Let a motherfucker try. Let a motherfucker try. I will fuck someone up in this place. I see you. Come on. Yeah, let a motherfucker try. One more for good luck. Okay, because I mean, one bullet ain't gonna do much. Use. Okay. We did it. Where are you? Anyways. Oh. Okay, well, as long as you don't come back, I'll be okay. That's all that matters to me. Okay, so this is where I started. Oh, I didn't even realize this key. 101. Okay, can we go through this door? Oh wait, no, I started right here. But where's 101? Usually it's up here, right? There we go. That was the game? That must have been the game, honestly. So I can probably see why it was taken off. I'll leave it here, but I mean, it's always just nice to be able to showcase certain games, I guess, even if they're not finished or just like this in any shape. I mean, it's always nice, you know. But based on what I've just done, I can't really see what the concept was, but there was combat involved. So I'm sure this was probably just a test, if anything, just to kind of test out the mechanics of a horror game. I mean, it was probably getting like one of those Resident Evil vibes, considering you had a zombie as well. Um, but you know, it is what it is. So we're gonna go on to the next one, and I'll probably end up doing 4 games for this one. So I'll see you in the next video. Okay, so this game is called Whimper, and it's gonna be on like a web game. So, and I think it's just I don't think it's really much of a game. I think it's just storytelling based. But Whimper is about a world devastated by aliens and leaving it poisoned forever after departing. It is also about a man who finally leaves his home after many years of isolation and out into what's left of the world. Now, this, I believe, This is made by the same guy who did Forever. Yeah, which I did earlier, which I thought was a great, great game. So I figured why not play, you know, basically all his games because I love the storytelling this person does. So this is where we're gonna start off right here. It says your sleep is violently interrupted by the coughs emitted by green smoke, the smoke that killed the rest of the world after the aliens were done with it. So I guess we're heading to the bedroom. Oh, okay. Is there any way? I think it's. What? There we go. Okay. You haven't bothered tending to your room for as long as you can remember. Living in cleanliness went the way of the dodo a long time ago. You take a look around and find a few objects you feel sentimental towards. There's a family picture, an old TV, and a broken piano. You're beginning to feel like you haven't eaten in years, so you go downstairs into the kitchen. Okay. Okay, so I just click the kitchen. Okay. Plates and used up cans litter the entire floor. The smell of rotten food makes you want to vomit. Find the bowl of maggots you left behind yesterday. Considering other options, you check the fridge, you check the pantry. I would probably check the pantry. Large holes have made their way into the pantry walls, and whatever food was left was now replaced with a hive of various insects. You recall a time when the thought of eating insects disgusted you, but then you look at the bowl of maggots. Ooh. Not left with many options, and the idea of starving any further only makes you hungrier. You feel repulsion looking at them. For a moment, you glance at the living room to distract yourself, but you've eaten them long enough to believe there's nutritional value and that it's better than starving to death. You eat every last one and ignore the unpleasant tastes swimming in your mouth. After you finish eating, you decide to get some fresh air outside. I think we're going to go outside. Every time you look at it from this point of view, you always wonder if you'll be able to come back. The aliens ruined your world, you knew, but you're not too worried about them anymore. What remains of most people too far gone, seeing others as food. Bones of life littering the wasteland of Ocean River, or like Ocean River. And the food and water is becoming more and more hazardous to digest due to the green poison. With nothing better to do, you decide to stretch your legs and go for a wander. No one will tell you otherwise again. You're free to walk the fields. At first, the people that survived the worst of it looked out for each other. Means of protection from the smoke were provided, and agricultural needs were met inside. But it was getting into the food eventually, and people were living on shorter time as a result of eating it. The fields are vacant and empty now, with only the gust of the harsh winds. Up ahead, you see a cabin. A small, dilapidated cabin stands still. The inside can be seen. They don't appear to be any guests. As you walk toward the entrance, you stumble upon a few objects. Looking down, you can see a rusted gun. Beside it is a plush toy. Finally, a piece of paper with writing on it. You then go through the cabin door. We might need the gun, though, for protection. You don't recognize the model of the pistol, but you get the feeling that it's been around for a very long time. You decide to take it with you just in case. Okay. A pink teddy bear covered with dirt. You remember the times your sister used to play with her own whatever she felt lonely, or whenever she felt lonely. Her friends were a comfort to her in the worst of times. You decide to take the toy with you as a reminder of her memory. Interesting piece of paper. The ink remains intact on the paper. There's no signature. Reading it, but reading it gives you the impression that it belonged to a resident in the area. It reads, "The crops are starting to rot from the smoke. We've tried everything to isolate the seeds so we could survive here. The city is too dangerous. The folk there are too far gone. The water tank is on its way out. Most of the water is polluted and can't be used anymore. This smoke, it's killing everyone else, even the ones believed to be immune. I don't even know how much time we'll have left. To whoever reads this, get out of here, for there'll be nothing left by the time you arrive." Okay. The cabin, for the most part, had been stripped clean by others before you had arrived. All that's left now is a skeleton, with a note beside it. You pick up the note, and you notice marks of stained blood gone dry, but the note's still clear enough to read. These groups of guys started coming around the area, rounding up folks for their food. They were well armed, maybe they were soldiers. Later on through the week, they came back, and I started seeing the pattern with them. All they did was take and take and give nothing in return. One day they were told there was nothing left to give to them. Then the shooting started. I hid from my window, and I saw them grabbing wood nearby, and they had a fire going. Most people had nothing to give them. They robbed us of everything, and now all I can do was watch them fill their stomachs. I have a feeling I will be next soon. God help us. You throw the note away and look at the corpse one last time. You find a nearby hand that still had flesh on it. You decide to take it in case of emergencies. You leave the cabin for good and walk for a good while. You hear the sound of the ocean water. You're not too far from the coast. So this seems like it's crazy. I mean, I would imagine this is what would happen. We would regress to a animalistic form of survival, and we would end up killing each other to survive. I mean, that's sad. Instead of working together, we'd end up killing each other. I mean, even then, because it's like they said that the food, everything's been poisoned. So it's like, even at that point, it's like there's not much you can do. So it seems like survival is literally just killing each other till there's no one left. A lot of the coast's beauty is masked by the never ending smoke. What was once a place people dreamt of retiring is now avoided for the sake of their own survival. You don't know why you ended up coming here, but with a world that stopped turning, you realize that you're just merely doing whatever you want, with no one left to tell you otherwise, even at the risk of damning yourself. You continue walking along the sands, kicking dead tree bark and broken seashells. You pick up a rock and throw it in the ocean. The water is mostly still, small, quiet waves making their way onto the shore. The days of bigger tides are no longer gone, or are long gone, as they are mysterious of sea, as are the mysteries of sea life. You look into the water and see bright green dots, lots of them. You assume that the ocean has succumbed to the poison. You begin to think back on your life, who you used to be, what the world was once like. Over the years, older memories would make their way out. The thoughts of remembering the names of relatives or old-time friends are but a distant dreams now. You scarcely remember at least one memory, the happiest and also the most tragic moment of your family. It's crazy. It was the moment when your father told your mother he loved her. You were a child when you heard this, but it was the most vulnerable moment you have of him. You don't remember much of him anymore as a person, but you are haunted by the times of violent outbursts that would emerge from him as you grew older. One day he completely snapped, being asked about a stressful job that had been eroding him on the inside out. Released a torrent of rage you had never seen before. Your mother took the worst of it, so much so that she never got up again. You then started to remember shaking uncontrollably at what you had seen. Something in your final conviction, or something in you finally convinced you to run. You didn't dare look at him. The closing thought before the memory ended was the sound of a gunshot. The ocean is still mostly silent and deathly. You didn't care enough to wonder if anything else on the other side remained. All you could do was leave the beach and go elsewhere. Anywhere, really. You decided to make a retreat into the nearby forest to make camp for the day. But on the way, you notice a giant graveyard of human remains. Damn, this person has a very traumatic past. In your years of living in this dying world, you had never seen so many lying corpses all in one area at once. You begin to wonder if it had anything to do with the invasion all those years ago. As you think about it further, you realize that you can no longer recall exactly when it happened. You knew for certain that it did, and you were a child when they came. But how old were you? You wonder, but to no avail. You see them in your dreams every night, but so did everyone else as they were mercilessly wiped out. Thoughts of the conflict came back very quickly, violently. Broadcasters began canceling all the scheduled shows. There wasn't even time for the government to report their sightings. It was a global emergency that came too late. You remember a cascade of screams, the same screams your mother let out when your father snapped. It all happened so fast, and as a child, it felt like the world was ending for you. Looking at the remains now, it's enough to convince you that, in a way, it did. Feeling tired of seeing the mass grave, you moved on, finding a resting place somewhere in the forest. In your younger years, you taught yourself how to hunt, and eventually you got pretty good at it. Walking in this forest reminds you of those days when there was still plenty of animals that you could survive on. Now, a lot of them are gone, and you have to settle for the littlest of creatures. With the synonymous nature of the forest, smoke makes it very difficult for most to travel. Some survivors have never been able to get out. You stumble upon a tree that suits your need for the campfire. It's brittle enough to break apart with your raw strength. You spend a good amount of time breaking it down into splinters. You gather a pile of wood and find a flat surface in the forest, and begin building a fire. You sit down and rest your legs as the fire comforts you. The world has lost many of those. You ponder more about the world as you sit beside the campfire. You begin to wonder if it was worth continuing to push on. What hope remained when humanity was par for the course? Questions you would never have answers for, and you can only guess that not enough people care about it at this stage. But you also entertain the idea that some have traveled underground, formed societies where the green smoke hadn't extended its poison to. You think about how long you've stayed alive for, and you realize that maybe were others out there still holding on to some semblance of hope. Whatever the hope that was, you haven't found it yet. Your thoughts are then interrupted by the arrival of a traveler. It's gonna be a lot of dialogue, I'm sure. All right. A figure is covered in black, wearing a porcelain white mask, standing from another corner of the campfire looking at you. May I sit? You hear a distinctive voice, one that's unlike your own. You simply nod and allow it, but you still keep your guard nonetheless. The traveler settles down by the fire next to you. You notice the length of the traveler's nails. You assume that it's a woman hiding under a mask. I didn't think I'd find anyone else around here. Are you looking for someone? You shake your head, and the traveler remains silent for a while. Eventually, she takes off her mask, showing a fair face with jet black hair. The world's full of cruel people now, people out for themselves. I've taken off my mask, you not to, trusting you're not one of them. You find this puzzling, the need to conceal yourself because of being a woman. But then you recall that you haven't seen a woman for years, and neither have many others, and some of those people no longer have any practical reason to compose themselves. Do you have any family? Again, you shake your head. Not the talkative type, huh? Fair enough. Just a fair warning, though. I have a gun, and I know how to use it, so don't get any ideas about me. She brings out a gun of her own, not unlike yours. You do the same, but neither of you take action. The silent stare between you and her gives you the mutual understanding that there's no hard feelings if either of you decide to fight. You think you then start to get hungry, so you bring out the hand you found earlier. The traveler is disturbed by the sight of it and realizes that you're privy to human taste. She gets up and begins to cock her weapon. You fallen victim too? I'm sorry, but I won't risk you eating me. She pulls the trigger. She grazes the side of your head. You feel nothing but pain for those few moments of you being awake, and then darkness envelops you. And in the darkness, you begin to dream again of the alien arrival. You're back upstairs in the room you always slept in, but as a child. You had just heard a gunshot coming from downstairs as you ran away from your crazed father. You begin crying uncontrollably, thinking about what happened to your mother. It felt like forever to you, not knowing what to do. You could hear the sounds of the TV going off. You looked at it and saw a show running, your favorite one called Miss Jasmine and the Six Stars. You stared at it blankly, teary-eyed still, but you weren't really watching it, just distracting yourself from the sudden loss. None of it worked. How could it? But then suddenly, the show was interrupted by a broadcast. We apologize for the interruption, but this is a worldwide warning to everyone who is watching. We are being attacked. I repeat, we are being attacked by aliens. All citizens are to immediately evacuate and find shelter. Government forces will be dispatched to assist you in your evacuation procedures. Do not look for your friends and family. Everyone is in immediate danger. I repeat, this is not. The broadcast is interrupted by the distorted noise and the beginning of the end. The signal on the TV changed to another one and was replaced by footage showing the chaos that was unfolding. It looked to be taking place in a city. Endless screams of the public could be heard, explosions and gunfire going on and off, being attacked by unknown forces. The person holding the camera was running for shelter, darting across the streets and into a building. The footage cuts out and is shown again, but this time heading up to a set of stairs. The cameraman comes along across the exit door and runs right through it, ending up on what appeared to be a rooftop. The city was in complete ruins, and yet the sounds of resistance could still be heard. You could see that traces of gunfire were going upward. But at what exactly? The cameraman then looks up at the sky and sees the alien. You had no idea what to make of it, other than the sky was twisting around its form just by its presence. The, the tears were gone. Upon its visage, you forgot what had happened in your own home in that moment. The day of their arrival was the day you lost all fear of your father. The dream was ending. A part of you was telling yourself to wake up. The pain hadn't ceased, or the pain hasn't ceased. A part of you is thankful that it wasn't fatal. Slowly but surely, you get up from your feet. The fire is still burning, but barely. The traveler is nowhere to be seen, and you check to see if she had taken any of your possessions. The only thing missing is the plush toy. You check your gun and find it's to still be loaded, so you at least could still defend yourself. You rip a piece of your clothing and tie it across or around your head, hoping it's enough to slow down the bleeding. I'm having a hard time reading this. I don't know why. You leave the campsite, feeling well enough to travel despite the injury, and try to find a way out of the forest. You knew that because of the green smoke, it would be more difficult to navigate, but all you had to do was find a road, any road, follow its track. You continue wandering through the forest with no one else or any other large animal to be seen. You understand why the traveler shot you and thought that if you hadn't taken out the hand, nothing would have happened. But it was a world where anything would have to do, or it was a world where anything would have to do. Eating other people was just another way of surviving. You never once considered the idea of enjoying it. Perhaps there were still some people that believe in the value of the old world, people like the traveler. You thought to yourself, it didn't matter. For the next time she would try to kill you, you would be prepared. After a long period of time waiting or wandering, you find a way out. With the possibility of escape, you begin walking on the road. Ahead, you begin to start seeing abandoned cars with skeletons inside. Perhaps they were trying to escape too, you thought to yourself. You look inside a car for any supplies, only to find nothing of any value. Continuing on the road, you go into this pattern of finding rusty cars with nothing to take from them. You then begin to wonder if you're even alone in this area. Eventually, you hear the sounds of chewing, sounds of bones cracking to your right. You head over to investigate, only to find two things: the mangled body of the traveler, filled with bite marks everywhere, and the man responsible standing up before you. From his appearance, you could tell that he was a bandit. Ooh, she shouldn't have done that. I think we would have been better safe together. Interesting. The bandit's mask was caked in blood, and he was carrying the mask the woman was wearing. Out of instinct, you pull the gun on him. You immediately fire, only for him to duck. You fire another round and miss. He closes the distance and gets a grip of you shortly after. You and him begin grabbing and trying to hit one another violently. You both end up falling onto the ground, and he gets on top of you. The bandit puts both of his hands around your throat and tries to choke you to death. Out of desperation and the fear of imminent death, you look for anything on the ground to hit him with. To your left, you find a small stone, heavy enough to hurt him. Your hand reaches it barely. You then hit him over the head as hard as you can. He falls over to your right, and you get up scrambling for the gun. You find the gun, quickly turn around, and fire a shot. The bandit takes a direct hit to the forehead and drops dead from the gunshot. You take a few minutes to catch your breath. You then look over to the traveler's corpse once more. She had called you a victim earlier, but you weren't sure what she meant by that. You had lived this way for so long that the idea of being civilized was lost to you a long time ago. Next to her, you find a note beside her. Next to her, you find a note beside her. You look at it and begin to read the traveler's note. My father had killed my mother, and he had killed himself. I lost my family a long time ago, and a few hours ago, I had lost my own brother. I don't know where the other one is, and I don't know if I ever will. Chances are he is just like the rest, depraved and mad with hunger. The aliens took everything from us, and when that wasn't enough, they poisoned it. When I saw that plush toy, I thought he was holding on to hope, that maybe my brother was still hoping that he would find me, but he didn't even recognize me, not once. When he brought out that hand, I knew then and there that he wasn't my brother anymore. I hope I haven't killed him though, and that if he finds this piece of paper, I hope he can forgive me. That is crazy. So that was his sister. Isn't that insane? There's still good in this world, and I have to keep believing that. I have to believe that there is still something left to save. You let out a single tear. You had lived alone for so long you had forgotten what they looked like. Looking back, you realized that you hadn't seen them since you were a child. How could you know what they looked like growing up? Goodbye, Lily, you said to her. While knowing she will never hear it, you then decide to bury her, knowing that it was the only good thing left you could do for her. After some time, the fire is made, and the body is buried underneath the embracing forest. You find a knife beside the bandit and make a carving next to the burial. Here lies Lily Palmer. You carve into the tree. You then look over at the bandit and begin the dissection. The bandit is nothing to you but an animal, and you dissect it in the same manner. You cut out the bits that are unwanted and leave aside what is edible for you. This doesn't take too long due to your experience. This time you felt more satisfaction due to the personal rage you had felt towards the bandit, taking your long lost sister away from you. You placed the body parts into a bag, and a small sense of peace flowed through you, the peace that you avenged your sister. But then you began to wonder if that was what she ever wanted. The doubt stemming from that thought eroded that peace and replaced it with longing. You leave the area without looking back, and the trek out for the forest, or out of the forest, feels like forever. The rest of the world finally opens up to you, and you find yourself on the outskirts. I don't know how long this is gonna be, so I'll still put it with my three scary games, but I'm enjoying this. How about you guys? You enjoying this? I like the story of it. I mean, I know it's not a game, but because it's on itch.io, I do appreciate these kinds of stories, especially like Forever. Even though it's a game, it's more of a visual novel, and I guess this, in a way, is just a novel with pictures. But, I mean, hey, I like it. You cut through another heap of forest, and you can hear the sound of water. You notice a cliff walking towards it, giving you a view of the neighboring town. It is the first time in years since you've set foot in any town or city, at least not since the invasion. You're not sure why you came all this way, but you have no compulsion to head back home either. Not after everything that happened in the forest. You begin to make your way down, minding your step along the treacherous path. The town, from your point of view, is dead silent, but you had gotten used to that, and recent events had shown you that it was probably for the best. After a while longer of heading downward, you finally make it to the town. You walk along the streets that were once populated by townsfolk, people trying to get by day to day. Now it's become a silent graveyard, and if anyone did reside here, they are not going out of their way to welcome any visitors. You decide to look at a number of different places, starting with the gun store, an abandoned cafe, and finally a wall filled with graffiti that paints a message, shaking you to your very core. So I guess we're gonna go to the gun store. The store had been turned upside down a very long time ago upon looking at it. None of it surprised you, however, for that it was to be expected in the most extreme of circumstances to take what you needed to survive. You remember how ineffective these weapons were against them, how helpless the army felt when the aliens tore them apart. In the footage you watched as a child, it appeared as a black hole to you, but it eventually changed forms, and ever since then you had been dreaming about it. These weapons were made to kill a man, not something without shape or form, and you thought to yourself, all the gun shelves had been stripped clean, but you did manage to find some ammo for your pistol. You leave the store without pain, of course. Place of comfort, where you finally had that warm cup of coffee in your hand. Now the cafe was reduced to being a gravesite. Tables and chairs filled with decaying corpses and skeletons. You look at the counter to see if there were any sights of other food, or maybe some leftover ground coffee. You manage to find some ground coffee sealed in a bag. It's not much, and you don't know how old it is, but you don't care. You also find a nearby pot, which may come in handy to brew some coffee later on. You also find a few pieces of food, but nothing human. You consider yourself lucky and leave the cafe. Yeah, I probably would too. All right. Um, the shape was almost similar to the one you vividly remember seeing on the TV in your dreams. But the writing disturbs you even more. Why? You ask yourself. Why would that come back? Questions with no answers in sight. You knew what the writing was referring to, and you felt a terrible fear loom over you. The sight of it spawned a number of ideas as to why they would return in your mind. Maybe they were about to finish the job. Take over, perhaps? Or maybe the maker of the graffiti was just holding on to their own hope, even if it was a bad one. Either way, you knew it was nothing you could do about it. You lived in the country for the strongest You lived in the country of the strongest nation on earth, and it still wasn't enough to stop them. In the distance somewhere, you could hear the sound of vehicles coming. In your mind, you assumed the worst, that people in groups usually meant trouble. You decide to clear off the streets and get as much distance as you can from the area. Up ahead, you see a larger building in the town. It appears to be a mall. They know we're alive. They're coming back. That would be crazy. But I mean, I could see that. They leave knowing that some people are going to survive. But are they going to come back? That's always the wonder. I mean, in a way, you would almost hope that you would want them to come back. Because why would you leave us in this state? I mean, it's like torture in a way. It's like cruelty, to just, oh, well, we're going to kill off most of humanity. And then we're just going to emit a poisonous gas and just let, let that just kill you off slowly. Like, that's cruel, to say the least. It was once a place of distraction for many, to give themselves something to do when the activities at home wasn't enough, or when they had a desire to buy the next material object for their collection. The pool in front of you is dirty and most likely contaminated due to the exposure of green smoke. You decide to walk up the stairs, looking at the mostly empty stores and naked mannequins. As you continue ascending the stairs, you come across more notes on the ground, on tables and counters left behind. Some of these notes are short, detailing the writer's whereabouts, suicide notes, and details for safe locations across town. Other notes contain longer paragraphs that are both reflective and somber. The contents for each letter give you the mixed feeling on the whole ordeal. You begin to wonder if the ones who died that day were the luckier ones, and the ones that persevered are cursed to roam the planet that's now on a shorter lifespan. You stumbled upon a particular note detailing the day of the invasion. From a soldier's point of view, you begin reading the soldier's note. Oh, geez. It's a long note. Give me a second. I'm drinking some Baja Blast because I don't have any water. But if you have water, drink it. Go for it. Or I just drink Baja Blast, whichever works. All right. Let's read this. It started with the drill. That was about as much as Brass was willing to tell us. My sergeant told me the same thing, but the other grunts were spreading rumors about it being more than just drill, that we were just prepping for a coming attack. They dispatched us down into the city. It was like a fucking parade almost, marching down the streets with everyone watching us. Whatever it really was at the time, the government was certainly keeping a tight lid on the whole shit show that was about to happen. Even to the end, does the government just say, hey, we're not going to tell you what's going on? Like, at that point, you gotta kind of wonder, like, just why even hide everything until the very end? And I'm sure the government probably already knew this attack was coming too, because they usually do. They just don't say anything because either they know they can't do anything, or they want it to happen. I heard the comps going crazy, and we were left with our thumbs up our asses. My sergeant kept responding over and over again to the radio chatter, trying to figure out what was going on. The panic was everywhere, and we were waiting for further orders before we could even get our shit together. They came. I had never seen anything like it, not even in the movies we would watch back at the base. It was like a giant fucking cloud coming right at us. We were immediately ordered to fire. We lit the whole sky with everything we had. We didn't stand a chance. It was like the sky turned into a giant tsunami wave. Our weapons didn't do anything to it. I saw the others get blown away. I saw buildings get smashed into nothing from the impact. We may as well have been fighting the moon, because that's how big it was to me that day. I must have gotten knocked out that day because I don't remember much after the initial attack. But when I woke up, they were gone, and everyone else I was with was dead. It's been years since then. Been living in this green shit for as long as I can remember, and I'm coughing up my lungs like crazy. To whoever reads this, go underground. The surface isn't safe to breathe in anymore. Corporal Walker. There was more comfort in that you weren't alone in losing everything. That was someone who would always understand what you went through in this world, or in the world. He mentioned on the surface becoming more hazardous was something you had been picking up on during your journey. You thought back to what you saw in the ocean, about what happened to the sea life. You began to realize that it was only a matter of time until the surface inhabitants met the same fate. But how could one survive in the tunnels alone? What food could be grown there? Questions you thought to yourself. It was a long shot, but you had no other alternatives. You decided to find a room to rest for the night and think about your next plan. You ended up discovering an unfinished room. Interesting. As you walk in, you begin hearing the sounds of gunfire outside the building. You assume that it was related to the vehicles you heard coming earlier. Who was fighting? You weren't sure. But to you, it made no difference. The town was mostly stripped clean. The vultures have arrived to take the rest. You wanted no part of it. The room doesn't have much going on for it, but you find some wood nearby and create a makeshift campfire in the room. You bring out the pot and coffee you found earlier and start brewing it over the small fire. The coffee tastes very bitter and out of date, but you drink it anyways and enjoy it, for you accept the possibility that you may never find any of it again. You spend most of the night by the fire, thinking back on the time you had spent home and why you stayed there for so long. You remember that you and your siblings separated from each other after the aliens disappeared. Neither of them wanted anything more to do with the place. They wanted to forget the memory of their father, but for some reason you stayed. You were too afraid to leave the only place you ever knew. Over the years of your isolation, you began taking steps outside, realizing that you had learned to survive. So you taught yourself how to hunt, how to make do with the most undesirable food imaginable. You even adapted to the taste of human flesh upon those found and killed or killed. You look back at that time. You think that if you had gone with your siblings, maybe you could have turned out differently. But now it was too late, and it will always be too late to turn the clock and say, I'll come with you. You look over at the big bag carrying the flesh you brought with you. You pick it up and throw it away. No more, you thought to yourself. In that moment, you decided that you would no longer live like an animal, but as a man of the past that hoped for a better future. You fall asleep at peace with your self discovery and forgiveness. And begin the second dream of the alien's attack. The screams were becoming quieter. The city was being enveloped in a trance of destruction and decay. The large alien swept through everything with a total indifference to those that day, or that died, those that suffered. You couldn't decide whether it was a deliberate attack or a cruel joust of the cosmos. You wondered about other life in the universe, even in the waking chaos engulfed the planet. Were they all as violent and terrifying as the one attacking us? You'd wonder. Its shape then began to evaporate into a thick green smoke, the same one you had been living in for a long time. You looked outside and saw the same thing occurring in the dream, or in the stream. You saw your child self visibly shaken and broken. Your brother and sister found you in a fetal position, and they embraced you. They told you that everything would be okay, that they would be there for you, but you don't recall them ever actually saying this to you, at least from what you remembered anyway. Now you would never know for sure. You then wake up from the dream and begin to have epiphanies. A rush of thoughts, new ones came circulating into your mind. You never had so much to think about for a long time until now. You begin to finally understand what your sister meant when she called you a victim. It was darkness, an endless pool of pitch black where nothing mattered. Every action you took in that time was merely a response to the broken world that you had been forced to survive in. It took the words of your long lost sister to plant a rope to help you out of the darkness for good. You think about your father and what the darkness did to him and what it took from you. You had befallen two tragedies when you were a child. You had lost hope of your father finding a way out of his own darkness, the hope for a good future in your family where everyone would be happy, where everything would be all right. And you lost the world you were supposed to inherit. You missed them all. You missed them all. You missed your mother. You would take solace in the knowledge that everyone lost something that day, that you weren't alone in that infinite pain. And a part of you finally be- and a part of you was finally beginning to believe that if there were more people in the world like your sister, there could be hope. Man, it's a lot of talking. I almost want to do text to speech just so I don't have to say so much, but I feel like it would ruin it a little bit. So, plus, it won't be as interactive if I don't speak it. So, you get up from the makeshift campfire. You begin to feel a smile across your face, the first genuine smile in eternity. And then a moment of happiness, you grasp the feeling of hope. You couldn't describe it, but you could feel it, like faith. You begin to think about the idea of living underground, a place of other colors that could be seen, and we're not washed by the endless green in the surface. It could be a place of thriving civilization born from the ashes of the old world. People born with the will to survive despite everything that's been taken from them. You start walking out of the room and out of the mall. You're back outside of the town and you can no longer hear the gunfire that had transpired earlier. But you didn't care about the details of it. For you were on the verge of finding something better. You had considered the possibility, though, that nothing may exist underground. But you also remember the soldiers' warning about the air. The sooner you got out, the better. You followed the road along town, avoiding open areas and sticking to hidden corners. You looked for a tunnel, any tunnel, for you knew that there'd be a way underground, which was your only hope. You hide as soon as you see a pickup truck pass by. The drivers and passengers had a rough look about them, and in the back of the vehicle lay corpses along them. Still hiding, you feel that they hadn't noticed you, for they only continued driving onward into the darkness you once came from. Both the soldiers' words and the actions of those men you saw convinced you that if hope was to be found, it wasn't on the surface. It had to be driven on the ground for those looking for a second chance at life. As soon as they vanished, you continue moving, and up ahead you find what you are looking for, a tunnel, a way out. Without looking back, You walk into the darkness of the tunnel entrance. So this might be where things start to go differently, I imagine. All right. Walking in, you feel like you can truly breathe again. You enjoy those moments of breathing for as long as you can. You thought about your other brother. You wondered if you made it down there. You could tell him what happened to Lily and that she tried looking for us. You thought of all the other things you would say to him, how much you missed your own brother. You had no way of knowing for sure. You look at the last remaining photo of your family, what they used to be. You had a family that were happy before the violence brewed within your father before they came. But there was always hope. It existed in the births that continued, those who continued to love others. With the photo in your hand, the human spirit within you is reborn. You look in your bag and find a pen and some paper. You decide to write a message for someone, a person that had yet to find hope but is trying. I haven't written anything in a long time. I haven't spoken to anyone in a long time. But whoever's reading this, I beg that you continue to live and not give up. I was alone for so many years, afraid of what was out here. But that fear drove me mad, and I lost so many things I never realized I'd lost. I will be heading underground in the hope that there is something else. I believe that there are still things yet to save. A sister who passed on believed in it too, and I will honor that hope of hers. If I cannot find anyone down here or down there, then I will make a home myself, and I invite anyone to join me. Either way, you must push on and not give in to that darkness. Okay. What happened to us was horrible. The world we knew will never come back. But we can create a new one in the memory of those we lost. I have done terrible things, things in the name of survival. But coming out of that darkness and finding myself again as a man, I can begin to atone for my mistakes. If there's still a part of you that's reading this, that's still holding on, don't give up. No matter what. Interesting. I wonder what this is. The end. Thank you for reading. So what is all this? Because I know this is Earth. But I'm curious to know, what is all this? What is that? Is that an eye? I'm thinking this is an eye. But I'm not too sure. Interesting. So I think... Yeah, so that's it. So this was Whimper. It's very interesting and very detailed story. And I like it. And, you know, I like the ending where you come out with some hope. I love that. So, I really enjoyed this. It wasn't that long. It was roughly about 40 minutes. So I think we still have time for one more game. I know I was going to say 4 games, and maybe that will still be a thing if this next one is not as good or not as long. So if the next one is good, decent length, it'll be 3 games. But if it's short, like really short, then it'll be 4 games. So I will see you in the next game. Okay, so this game is called Disposition. Race along the coastline as strange, hostile entities chase you down. Try to reach your destination as fast as you can, but don't lose control. Okay, so I don't need my controller. So, I guess I'm driving? That's what it looks like. Alright. So this game will have flashing lights, so if you have epilepsy, probably would recommend maybe not watching this one. Let's just do it on high. Okay, save and close. Alright, let's do this. Shouldn't be that hard. Maybe. Just stay ahead of those tiny red bastards and drive into that big red bastard. Okay. I can't see nothing. Oh, what the fuck? Was I looking at the ceiling the entire time? I was so confused. I'm surprised I managed to drive. This is actually very different. Whoa. If you look at the... Whoa, there's a tree in the fucking road. It looks like there's something... I don't know. It's very few horror games where driving is the main concept. I was surprised I managed to fucking drive with looking up at the ceiling. It was weird that you kind of just spawn in looking at the ceiling. Okay, I don't know what's chasing. That thing, I guess. It's chasing. I don't know what that is. What if I'm going the wrong way this entire time? I just didn't know it. That must be the big red one. That must be the big red one I'm supposed to be going to. This isn't so bad. I thought that it would be... Oh, it must be right behind me, whatever it is. I don't know if I was supposed to stay on a road or not. There we go. Found it. Found the road. Don't question me. I don't know what that is, but it sure is following me. This is certainly a different horror game. I don't think I've ever really played anything where driving is... Oh, yeah, let's just keep going. Don't want to catch it up. Oh god, whatever it is right on. And the problem... I don't know what that is. And the problem is... Ah, climb it. Climb it. Ah, game over. I tried. Okay. Okay, there we go. So that's what I'm going after right there. So I think it's because with the roads, just kind of doing its thing. You know, like what roads you normally do, they just kind of veer off. I think that was my issue. I just gotta... Well, it's like when you're trying to escape something as well, that's kind of a problem as well. So there's nothing behind me. The problem is I don't know if I need to take my time, if I have time to take my time, or if it's like, okay, I need to... Right there. Did I need to go back that way? These are the questions that I'm needing to know. Like, am I supposed to go this way? I suppose so. I'm hoping anyways. This was the way I was supposed to go. I kind of have this burning question. What are these red things that are chasing me? I feel like they're aliens, but they could also be like government tech. That's what I'm wondering. I feel like they're aliens only because if you see a bunch of cars on the road, it's not exactly going to be something like, you know, you're going to think, oh, you know, the government clearly put all these cars in the middle of the roads and shit. No, even cop cars. So we might be coming up on a turn here pretty soon. Thinking. I could be wrong. Wish we had our brights on or something. Maybe I could see. I mean, still back there, so we're doing pretty good. I wanted to know what those red lights are. Like, for real. So here we go. Picking up some speed. I have a need. Whoa. Ooh, that would have been close. That would have been bad. Okay, we're doing pretty good. At least I think we are. I don't even know if we're... I don't want to go too fast. I think we lost the red lines. Now it's just a matter of how long will it take before we get to the big one. Yeah, I think they're back there again. I have a complaint. Trees are not in the road. There's another one. You guys would show back up, wouldn't you? There's another one. So the goal is to try to make it to this thing. The problem is I don't know if I'm getting any closer or not. That music playing? Yeah, like I genuinely don't know if I'm getting closer or not. I feel like I am, but I'm not, if that makes sense. Like I should be almost there, if anything. Like this should be it right here. I don't know. Okay, try to reach your destination as fast as you can, but don't lose control. I don't know where my destination is. I know it's the big red light, but fuck, man. Like, I feel like I'm inching closer to it, but then I feel like I'm getting further away. I'm inching closer, but then I'm getting further away. So I can't ever tell if I'm actually supposed to go to the red light or what. Okay, so I just watched somebody, and from their video, I guess it took them about 8 minutes, just in one go. Yeah, 8 minutes in one go. So we'll try it one more time, because I mean it's very confusing. Like I feel like I'm getting closer, but then like I said, it just doesn't feel like I am getting close enough though. Like I keep just getting close, but then I'm getting a little further away. Then I'm getting close, and I don't know which road. I mean, usually, well for me, I'm thinking you got to take a certain road, you know, one that would look like it would get you closer there. But I don't know if it's actually the right path that I'm taking half the time. So I'm gonna try this last time. I don't want to like give up on the game, but it's like I just feel like I'm not making any progress. You know, getting in the direction I'm looking to get into. Okay, so we're gonna take this path. It's kind of boring a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. I wish, if anything, they'd have music playing. Or something, you know, just like something tense. Oh, scary red lights. Why do you want to hurt me? I feel like all the roads eventually are going to lead down in the same direction. Maybe. I think that's why these, or I guess in a way they all kind of connect. I don't ever know. That's what's so confusing, I guess. Oh, I saw a deer. You see that deer? I'm trying to see. There's gonna be a turn up here on that. So if I make it back to that one area where I ended up driving off a cliff, I'm kind of curious to know which path I'm gonna need to take. I want to know what these red. I'm guessing these red lights are maybe checkpoints for me in a way, letting me know I'm going in the right direction. I would like to think. I want to assume that that is the case, why they're there, and not just deploying these things. I want to believe I am on the right path. That's not good. Ah! Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. That was close. I was gonna be mad. But yeah, I think I'm good now. I guess it makes sense. I was going downhill way too fast. Kind of curious enough just drifting on this car, but I don't know. I don't think I want to try it out. Okay, I think we're getting closer though. So we won't know how close we get until we actually like. You'll know. You basically like it'll be like a big red light. I mean, that is a big red light, but I mean, it'll be like huge. See, it's so weird. The music starts playing a little bit. Once we get to about right here. I think we might be on the right. Another deer. A ghost deer. It's weird, actually. I wonder if the ghost deer has anything to do with any of this. Revenge of the deer. I almost went forward. That's where I ended up driving off the cliff. So this should be the right direction. This would suck. This would, in fact, suck. Not knowing what's killing you. Or what's basically happening, and you're like this lone driver, like I know what I have to do. to drive my car into the red light. I'm Batman. There we go. We're basically here. Yeah! We're gonna die! We're gonna sacrifice ourselves by entering the red light. And that's it. That's the game. Sadly enough, I wish there was an ending scene to understand what the fuck we just went through. But this was it. So I guess with that being said, this was my 3 scary games. Um Overall, I think I don't want to say these were all like terrible, but they were kind of subpar. I think if anything, the Whimper one, it was good storytelling, but other than that, it wasn't like. I mean, I can honestly say that these weren't that great, but I'll still post them anyways because people might find interest in these. So if you want to play this one, like the others, I'll put them in the description below. And with that being said, this is my 3 scary games. So I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day. Drink plenty of water, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.